Now, it's been a rough ride for many during the pandemic. Employment looks set to fluctuate once more as we emerge, and it looks like hospitality is also set to flourish in the future. So what's that going to look like? Well, Ticker Work starts right now.
Ticker Work, in association with IntoWork, the one-stop employment shop for all things work.
Hello and welcome back to Ticker Work. My name's Mike Loader, I'm your host for today, and hospitality is set to contribute an excess of billions of dollars a year to Australia's economy. And the sector has taken a significant hit over the last 2 years, that's no secret. And a flow-on effect from a combination of border closures and lockdowns, and prior to that the bushfires that ravaged parts of the country. But it's an industry that is bouncing back, and if predictions are correct, it will be bigger than ever. Now, what this means is there's lots of new opportunities for people to have a career in hospitality, and joining me to tell us all about the sector at the moment is Poul, the Group CEO of IntoWork Australia, a leading national service provider that supports economic and social participation. You guys do everything to do with employment. Poul, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you. It's a very exciting space to be in, actually, particularly around this time now too, when we've got so many opportunities starting to flourish and come back out. I think most of us have experience going to a restaurant or trying to go to a hotel, etc., and just finding how busy the staff are. So it's the right time to get involved in the sector if you're looking for a job or a career in that space.
Tell us a bit more about what we've got available, I suppose.
There's so many different types of opportunities. So we've got everything from, obviously most people see the front of house, the wait staff, etc. You've got executive chefs or chefs at the background. You've got security people. You've got cleaners. You've got people welcoming people into a hotel. You've got so many different types of opportunities in the hospitality space that there's management roles, admin roles, etc. So what we do is we work both on the training but also on the support part of it. So once people actually get, once a business determines that that's the type of person that they need, then we help to find that person, we help to place them within that, and then provide the support, both the training, but also access to government subsidies as well, and enabled, particularly in the current environment where businesses have been doing it really tough, that they can get the extra support to get people on board and then invest in those people to skill them back up again.
And it's like what we were talking about before about just getting involved, starting out, you know, some younger employees as well after the years that we've had, jumping on in, getting involved, and there's a lot of skills that you learn that are transferable to other careers as well, which is really exciting.
Oh, it is. And look, I mean, about a third of all people working in this space have previously come from overseas, and so they've either been students or they've been people travelling around Australia. But now, of course, we need people locally to be able to get involved, and it's fantastic long-term career opportunities.
All right, well, let's hear from someone who's experienced things from another deeply affected sector. We've got Executive Chef Cory Costello joining us from the Rockpool Group. Welcome to the program.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
No worries at all. So, Cory, it's no secret that Rockpool is known for its high quality and skilled creations. Paul and I were talking off air about the times we visited once before. How has the lockdown affected your ability to train the next generations of skilled chefs to reach that level of expectation that everyone's sort of come to know and expect?
I think the biggest setback that we've seen in the industry over the last couple of years is just the foreign workforce not being available to come in and train the young Australian sort of workforce that we have with those extra skills that you might not pick up in Australia. So obviously cooking is an international profession because there's so many international cuisines. So not having those people from overseas has probably been the biggest thing that's going to affect us, and also just the progression of some of the younger chefs. With the restaurants not being open as much and not having as many guests, the younger chefs don't come through as fast because the work wasn't there. So some of them have dropped out of the industry, but as a whole, I think we've been pretty protected in certain parts. I think the upper echelon of restaurants have been a bit more protected compared to those mid-level restaurants.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned in a recent article that some employers need to up their game, and a recent survey found that 59% of Australian food services industry owners, I should say, and managers believe that there's a shortage of local chefs. What do you think employers can do to help them attract new staff and perhaps keep the old guard happy as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think back to when I was young and doing sort of, you know, the my apprenticeship and those early parts. the way that you found people that were very loyal to you and would stay on was just to be really respectful to them. And then there was this generation of will shift, probably in the early 2000s, where being mean as a chef and really having to work excessive hours, and I think that came a lot from the English sort of influx of chefs out there that came from England, and a lot of Australians adopted the English work habits, and I don't think it really suited what Australia did. And I think that's really changed a lot now, and people are realizing that the worth of someone, if you help them out a little bit, and if you do some different things for them, if you make work entertaining in other ways, just things like field trips or going to see producers, seeing suppliers, work dinners out, all hanging out after work at restaurants and going to, building a culture around it. And a lot of these people that come and work in the industry come from, maybe come from backgrounds that might have been disadvantaged. And so you can really become part of a team and part of a family and part of a culture in a restaurant. And I think if you have the staff there that buy into that culture, that's how you get them to stay, and that's how you get people to join. From my experience, that's what I've found anyway.
Yeah, you sort of promote the passion of the whole thing, which is exciting. What does a typical day as a chef look like for you, I suppose, is my next question.
Well, for my days as chef's a bit different to some work with me. I start off my day by reading a lot of reports. We have quite a few restaurants within our group, so I have to read the reports from the previous night's services, have a look at the figures, have a look if there's been any problems that run through. Then I'll answer emails for about 3 hours, and then I go down and do some service in the restaurant. So I'll call service and see some of the food, but I don't do that as much as I'd like to anymore. That's just sort of the fun part. I think I became a chef because I hated school and hated looking at reports and hated looking at spreadsheets and doing homework, and now that seems to be what I do. So
isn't that ironic?
I preferred working with
Isn't that ironic how it
crazy.
goes? But just on that, what about many of the younger chefs, who would be looking to you perhaps for some guidance? What keeps you inspired to keep coming up with new ideas?
I think being the restaurant that we are, Rockpool's been famous. Neil Perry built an empire out of really promoting producers and promoting Australian produce. I think when the rest of the country was all cooking French and Italian, he created a cuisine that was based around Australian produce, what we could farm here, what was best in season. And that's really the way that we write our menus here, and the way that we get all the younger chefs to be part of it is to eat things like, if you go and eat a tomato right now, it's the nicest tasting tomato ever. If you eat a tomato in May or June, it's not going to have much flavour. And you think about, they need sunlight and lots of sunlight. So learning about produce and where it comes from and learning how to eat great is the way to get them all inspired. I think, Mum always had, I hope you're not listening, Mum, but Mum always had like a fruit bowl in the kitchen, and that it'd have all the fruit that never got eaten because it was never ripe. And if someone gives you an underripe apple or a pear or a banana or an orange, it's horrible. But when you have any one of those things at the perfect point, you see why they're so popular. But because of intense farming and things that happen like that, we don't get to have fruit and vegetables or produce when it's at its best. It's when it works best for the supplier and best for the big markets.
Cory, just on that, let's talk a bit more about food just to finish, and let's talk about the perfect steak. You guys did a recent online presentation. Okay. What's the most important thing to remember? My father loves to cook meat as well, so he'll be watching.
And this is a bit of a hard one because I think people have different expectations when it comes to steak, and so people like tender. Some people like thick and sort of juicy, and other people don't mind a bit of texture and really go for flavor and sort of an aged piece of meat. So steak is a very individual thing, but if I'm going to give someone a very quick rundown, it's lots of salt, and to make sure that you're cooking utensil or whatever it is, be it a barbecue, a frying pan, a hot plate, has to be really hot. And when I say really hot, I mean really hot. People get very intimidated by saying or thinking that it's going to burn, where it's pretty hard to burn a piece of meat. It'll get a really nice crust before it burns. So yeah, really, really hot and lots of salt.
There you go. Cory Costello, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk to us a bit about the industry and where it's at, and some quick tips there about steak
No problem.
as well. Easy done.
Yeah, I might have to take for lunch.
Thanks, Cory. I'm definitely feeling hungry too, and I remember that online presentation was fantastic. We all learned a lot. But
No
look,
problem.
IntoWork works very closely together with the Rockpool Group, and it's fantastic to be able to have appointed a number of apprentice chefs together with the Rockpool Group to be able to work with Cory and the rest of the team. And for them, of course, it's been a mind-blowing experience. But we've got the opportunity of being able to place people as apprentices, as trainees, and to be able to assist with training, and even some casual support assistance as well if people need casuals on too. So we can work with businesses around that right across the country in all states and territories. So if people want to get online and have a look at intowork.com.au or the 1300 99 work number, give us a call and we can link people through with that as well. But it's hard to always find those unique opportunities like the Rockpool Group, but there are tens of thousands of restaurants out there looking for key people. So of course we need more and more candidates as well.
Perhaps something to strive to. Paul, I want to
Yes.
thank you for joining me on the program, and of course to all of you out there in the wild world of television, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Ticker Work, and I'll see you again soon.